If we're talking about the best hearty soups to beat the cold, then this one has to be up there at the top. Today we were talking about one of the many classic dishes that Louisiana has given us. We are talking about gumbo. At my last job, I probably ate gumbo at least 3 times a week. Fatty, it's satisfying, it's hearty and delicious. That's what I'm craving today, so that's what we're doing. We are making andouille sausage and chicken gumbo from scratch, so don't go anywhere. Before we get going, I'm gonna go over all the ingredients that we're gonna need to make a classic gumbo, starting with the holy trinity of vegetables in New Orleans, which is onion, celery, and bell pepper. Typically when you see that, you're also gonna see some garlic, so I've got plenty of cloves of garlic here. And for the meat, I'm going classic andouille sausage and chicken. Can't find andouille sausage, good smoked sausage works too. And I'm using boneless chicken thighs. You could use bone-in, I just like the thighs because there's a little bit more fat, a little bit more flavor. You can use any part of the chicken if you want, totally up to you. Seasoning-wise, I've got some dried thyme, some bay leaves, little filet powder, which is very traditional in New Orleans. It's actually ground sassafras. Green onions for garnish. Then the base of this soup is a good dark roux. So for the roux, we need equal parts flour and vegetable oil. Then I've also got some homemade chicken stock. You could use store-bought chicken stock, you could use beef broth, vegetable broth, whatever you want, but make sure you have plenty on hand. Then I've also got some fresh cracked pepper, and then don't hate me for this, but I've got Red Lobster seafood seasoning that I found at the dollar store that I actually really like. But the thing that's gonna take the longest here is making the roux. It's gonna take about 30 to 45 minutes. Once we start it, we can't walk away. So we're gonna have all the vegetables chopped and ready to go by the time we start the roux. So let's go. I'm gonna start by cutting the ends off the celery because those can be kind of bitter. And then I'll cut these in half the long way. Just chop them up. They don't have to be super fine, but just chop them up nice and small. I like to leave the leaves on. Don't worry about throwing these away. That's all good flavor. So we got our celery done. Then for the bell pepper, if you cut along these lines, you'll miss all the ribs on the inside. So just slice down here and then you won't have to clean your peppers. Seeds go in the trash, and then we'll just do the same. Just cut these into strips first. Then just dice them up pretty small. When you're cutting onions, little tip, leave the root side on. That's gonna keep everything intact. So we're gonna cut off the top, place it flat so you get a nice stable surface to work on. Then just cut it in half the long way, and you're gonna need to peel it. No one wants to eat onion peel. Then with the root still in place, traditionally put your hand flat so you can just do a couple horizontal lines like this. A couple vertical lines. Don't go all the way to the root, leave a little bit left. And then when you cut it, see how it all kind of stays together? Then just chop down and you got perfect dices. Make sure to throw away that root and then just dice everything up nice and fine. You can also add some jalapeno to this if you wanted it a little spicier, but here we got our holy trinity all cut. We're also gonna chop up the garlic. I've got 4 cloves of garlic. To chop it, the best way to chop it is just put your knife flat on the board, smash it. Don't even really have to chop, maybe just give it a once over just to make sure. We're gonna keep the garlic separate from the onions, pepper, and celery because the garlic is gonna cook faster, it's gonna burn easier, so we're gonna add that after we add all this stuff. Garlic stays over here. And then we're just gonna chop up our andouille. You don't want it too small. I like to cut them in half the long ways. Then just lay it flat and cut it into little coins. Just think of how much sausage you're gonna want in your mouth at one time. Don't go there, you know what I mean. I like to dice up the chicken too. You don't have to, it'll kind of break apart on its own as it cooks, but this way it's just a little bit more even. You avoid someone getting like one huge chicken thigh when they try to bite into their soup. So now that everything's chopped up, ready to go, we can get our roux started. So you're gonna need a big pot, and then to that we're gonna add our oil. I have a half a cup of oil. Then we're gonna get this over medium heat until the oil starts to get really hot. Once your oil's hot, this is where you are for the next 30 minutes. Don't go take a shower, don't go check the mail. We're right here because this can burn really easily, especially if it's your first time, second time doing this. Don't go anywhere, just stay right here. Oil's hot, so we're gonna add our flour in. Your best friend is gonna be a good wooden spoon, and you can't over stir this. You can definitely under stir this. If you stop for a little bit, the bottom can burn really easily, so just keep stirring it nice and slowly. You'll start to see it darken from white to blonde. We're looking for a nice dark chocolate roux, so Keep going. I'll show you what I mean as we get there, but just keep slowly stirring and keep an eye on it because a bad roux can mess up a gumbo really quickly. So in the first 10 minutes or so, it's gonna go from white to like a light blonde color, such as this. And then it's gonna start to get a little bit darker. You're gonna see this light butterscotch caramel color, then a little bit darker caramel. And then this is where I'm gonna stop. It's a little darker in person than it is on camera, but it almost looks like melted chocolate. It's this deep, rich brown color. This is where I'm gonna stop. This is a rich chocolatey brown color. You could go darker if you want to. I feel good right here. It's velvety smooth. And we're gonna throw in all of our vegetables except for the garlic. Be careful, don't let this touch you, don't let it splash on you. It is like molten lava hot. We're gonna throw in the Holy Trinity, but just be careful, kind of throw it in gently. We're gonna let these vegetables sweat out for like 3 to 5 minutes on medium heat, just till they start getting soft. They're gonna cook a little faster than usual because they're in this rocket hot roux, so just keep an eye on them, keep stirring it. All these vegetables are like buttery soft now, so we're gonna throw in the garlic along with the andouille sausage and the chicken. Chicken and sausage are in. We don't wanna cook these too long. They're gonna simmer for a while. Now we're gonna add about 5 bay leaves and about a teaspoon of dried thyme. Then in goes a little bit of our chicken stock. I like to just use it to deglaze the pan a little bit. Kind of scrape up all those bits at the bottom. Give it like a good scrape all around. Then we're ready to dump in the rest. I'm using about 3 to 4 cups of chicken stock. Then crank the heat up to high just until this comes to a simmer. Turn the heat down to low, and then we're gonna let this baby simmer for at least 2 hours, if you can, all day long. Gumbo's been simmering and smelling up the house something crazy all day long, but now we were in the home stretch. Last 30 minutes, we're gonna start some white rice. Every rice is different, but if you've never made rice before, for long grain white rice, which is what I've got here, typically 1 part rice to 2 parts water. So I've got 1 cup of rice, 2 cups of water. We're gonna do it very simple. Add everything to the pot, turn it up to high till it comes to a simmer. Then as soon as it comes to a boil, we're gonna put a lid on, crank the heat down to low, let it simmer for 15 minutes. Then I like to take it off the heat, leave it covered for another 5 minutes, and then it's ready to go. All right, ooh, I'm so excited about this. Gumbo done, rice done. Now we're ready to build it and eat it, but before we do, we're missing one very traditional ingredient, and that is filet powder. So filet powder is actually ground sassafras leaves. Gives it like an earthy flavor. If you think you've never had it before, never heard of it, sassafras is also found in root beer, so there's a really good chance that you probably have had this before, and you want to add this once the gumbo is off the heat. Sometimes it's served tableside and you can add it yourself, so I'm going to add just about a couple teaspoons. Just stir it up a little bit, make sure it's all incorporated, you don't have any clumps. Also, Avery Brewing is the big inspiration behind this recipe. When I worked there, I ate the gumbo, no joke, probably at least 3 times a week. It's hard to find really good gumbo, and they have it on point. So to plate it up, get a nice ladle. Make sure to pick out your bay leaves. You can just spoon the rice on top, or you can put it in a little ramekin and flip it over like this. Finish it with some green onions, maybe a little hot sauce. That, my friends, is your sausage and chicken gumbo. The best thing about this recipe is if you wanted to do it for Lent and just use shrimp and crawfish, you could easily do that. You can add whatever meat you want. You could make it vegetarian and just do some okra, tofu. It's totally up to you. This plate costs just this much money. Don't forget to please hit the like button, subscribe, do all the things. I'm always looking for ideas what to make next. So locate the comments section, type in what you want to see. What's your favorite dish? What's your favorite restaurant dish? Type it in below. I'm Jim with Doesn't Pay Full Price, and I'll see you next time.